which does imply that saying hanging dong is a more adult term than asking
It's
where
dirty
a
talk
butthole
to
is.
you.
It's dirty talk to me, and I'll get to that. No, shut up. Shut up.
In 1996, Scholastic began publishing Animorphs. Over the next 6 years, Katherine Applegate and her husband, Michael Grant, under the pseudonym K.A. Applegate, produced 54 main series books, several spin-offs, and inspired a TV series, graphic novels, and a cult following. We can't tell you where we live. We can't even tell you our last names. But we can tell you our thoughts and feelings on this series, book by book. I'm Miranda.
I'm Eddie.
And I'm Chris.
And we are the Anidorks. These may be kids' books, but we discuss dark themes and mature content. There may also be some explicit language. Listener discretion is advised.
What would an Animorphs theme park be like?
Yo, this is a great
Hawks
entry
on roller
point.
coasters. Fuck, I can't talk. Hawks on roller coasters.
Yeah.
Hawks on... Oh!
That's really good.
Yeah.
Yes, because that happened.
Yeah.
They have at least one attraction in like every Disney park that they call Soarin'. And I'm like, Soarin' with Tobias? That fits. Like, that's
Nice.
right. Like,
I'm thinking, like,
experience it as a red-tailed hawk. Disney's got this whole thing where they have like multi-sensory. They got smells and sounds and like wind blowing in your face. I want to feel like I'm a fucking hawk.
I'm imagining some fucked up AR or VR experience where you get into a weird massage chair that pretend crunches your bones while you morph.
Yeah, crunch your bones.
Yeah.
Like do you remember the old, I hate to keep using Disney, but like there's an old Disney.
Stop using Disney.
It's just what I remember.
I know.
They don't even have it anymore. I don't think it exists, but it was like an alien escape that
remember.
they used sound and things breathing on your neck. And I'm like, yes, put me in a tight suit and then play noises of my bones crunching.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was like one where they put like fancy headphones on and they were shaving you, and I was like, "Oh, that's stereo for you, bud."
Yeah, stereo will fill in a lot of gaps in your imagination.
It's a big deal. Yeah.
What do you call the monorail? We take
monorail.
The taxon planet.
The taxon monorail.
Yes.
Trains.
Yes, and blast holes everywhere.
Blast holes everywhere.
And
one man's blast hole is another man's suck tube.
I also think we
gotta have updraft shafts.
Oh yeah.
Updraft shafts is so good.
We have to have a crash landing simulator for when they crash in the Amazon, or we could do the chase scene from Andalite Chronicles, where they're basically pod racing across the planet. Yeah.
Is there like a GED construction simulator? Like, do you go in and you put on the VR headset and you work a day in the life of a GED?
Or even beyond that, like I would love the abandoned construction site itself.
Oh, just like a playground or like a pool theme. Like a pool
like if there was
around
like
the
a
abandoned
parade where 5 children got given the power to morph every day at around noon, let's say.
Yeah.
And maybe again at 3 p.m. and again at 6 p.m.
And then at the end of every single one, we kill a homeless man.
Yes.
Which sounds more and more like Disney.
More like Florida Disney every day.
Exactly. All right. That's depressing.
I feel like we could also, the Honey I Shrunk the Kids section of Disney. We could do that with like the Ant Kingdom.
It's gone now, but yes, we could do that.
And a kid gets to pull the termite queen.
Oh my God!
Off.
It's tough to be a bug. The attraction that nobody ever wanted, where it makes every child cry.
Wait, what's it tough to be a bug?
Oh, it's an A Bug's Life thing that was made without children in mind. Like, it's basically horrifying.
Why?
A giant animatronic of the evil grasshopper pops out. They simulate wasp stings at the back of your chair.
They tell you they're going to sting the shit out of you. And it's just one of those corny 4D things, but it's like, if you tell a 5-year-old we're going to sting the shit out of you with wasps, like...
And they warn you repeatedly when you go into the attraction that it might be alarming for small children, and everybody brings their babies.
Yeah.
But this is good. It's like a good prep for our Animorphs theme park, which is next door to Disney World.
Is it
Kids-
our
Animorphs?
theme park or our Animorphs theme park?
Animorphs theme park? Because the R
Gotta be
slash
careful with that in the
Animorphs theme
contract.
park. Yes,
Well,
you got to be
'cause
really
that
careful.
also
Most of
involves-
the people are very good, but you might have a lot of Jachel memes.
Yeah,
then,
it also, there's going to be a lot more bullying if you're into horoscopes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you imply that Animorphs is not hard sci-fi, if you act like everything holds up to scrutiny.
Now, I didn't go to college, but I do not recall one of the hard sciences being Animorphs.
No.
Right? Like, I don't, like, come on.
Nor the hard sciences.
Ooh,
So it's
or the hard sciences.
Neither psi nor phi.
Oh, you're very good. You're very disgustingly good. That's very good. I also am loving the idea of hard fiction somehow not being erotic.
Hard fiction is fiction that makes you feel bad. It's actually, the first book you have to read is A Little Life, and then it's actually the only book you have to read.
This is some challenging fiction. This is
makes you feel bad.
Speaking of our Animorphs, we have a little friendly debate to settle.
Oh, Jesus.
I
This debate was not friendly, and I was asleep
I would
for
say
all
that
of
two
it.
out of the three members of our group chat were very friendly.
Miranda was asleep.
speak.
That does not count as friendly.
I think it was a hit and run with
Being
me.
asleep-
So.
So we have some internal beef here where someone on our Animorphs posted a thing
I
that got voted
Chris. I
down
have
to
some
all
internal
that got downvoted to all hell because someone was like basically doing that thing where they post and they say something completely asinine about the characters having started the books. And the premise was like, so if Axe is running around like as an Andalite in the woods, hanging out in his natural form, like, is his dong just like hanging around the other kids? And I believe that's what the post actually said.
I think the language is
something
important,
like
so
that.
I'm going to check.
All right, we need to get this right. You took a pic of it. Check from the signal.
Oh, that's right, which is on my computer, something I forget every time and then have to load all of the chats for the last.
I'm pulling it up. I have it right here in front of me. All right, you ready?
Is it slinging dog?
Okay.
No, it's not.
Do
slinging
Andalites
dog.
have exposed penises like horses do? And if so, does this mean, does this mean that Axe was just casually hanging dong around the other
Hanging
kids?
dong.
To which I said, like, the first interaction Eddie and I had was good. I was like, oh God. And Eddie was like, downvoted to hell. And like, I was like, as it should be. Eddie then thought, well, don't be so high and fucking mighty, Chris. Because
Is that what I said?
Same as. This is our couples therapy session right now.
That I did not sign up for.
Eddie said, don't be so fucking high and mighty, Chris, because this is the same as wondering about butthole placement on Andalites. To which I said, I disagree. Dong around children is offensive even to me, which I will admit I misquoted, and it was just right above what I typed. Eddie said, the other kids, haha. I said, we were not suggesting. We were not
you
suggesting.
turned it into, what is it called? That Christian group, Families First? Was that the 80s thing? Focus on families?
What are you talking
Well,
about?
just
Focus
that
on
you
the
were
family.
like, think of the children. And I was like, it actually
Think
said
of the
the
children.
other kids because Axe is also a kid. He's not Alfangor hanging dong
the
around the
phrase-
children.
So hold on, we're getting to
Which
that because
he
I'm
would
gonna
have been
fucking
if
nuke
you
your.
extrapolate
I'm
from
gonna
it.
nuke your ass when it comes to that shit. But the point is, I said we are not doing suggestive or sexual humor with the butthole question. Is what I said specifically, which does imply that saying hanging dong is a more adult term than asking
It's
where
dirty
a butthole
talk
is.
to you.
It's dirty talk to me, and I'll get to that. No, shut up with that. So Eddie says, I didn't read it as sexual. So I said, dong is way weirder than talking about how an Andalite poops. That's sort of what my whole
Was that the
my
premise
argument.
of why we talked about the
I think that's where
ordinary
we
butthole?
started on buttholes.
Actual-
I think we did ask at some point, like, if if he had expressed genitalia because we were like, it is a little weird that he doesn't wear pants, but also he's an animal, so it's not that weird, and I think we moved on.
We did not go post that on our Animorphs.
No, we said that on our podcast.
We did ask some public
here's
audience
the twist.
where they thought the butthole was.
This is my post. No, I'm just kidding. It's not.
I'm just saying the butthole question came about so much more earnestly because they put the mouths in the hooves, and it was there were a lot of valid interpretations
of where they might poop from.
Of where they might poop from.
Yeah.
Like it was a really interesting question. And here's the other thing: if Axe was hanging asshole around the other children,
asshole.
Well, he's got a tail. He's got a tail that covers that. That's,
right.
But he does have
That's
it
what I'm
up
saying.
a lot, and then he's just sort of showing it off.
Yeah.
I'm just, we don't know if Axe has cat-like tendencies, who somehow their asshole is always directly in front of you.
I'm sorry, did you need the milk? I'm sorry, that's my asshole.
Yeah. Nick Kroll crushed it with that joke. It's such a good bit. But anyway, all I'm saying is we have made mistakes on our Animorphs. We have made J-Chul jokes. We have had people post them on our behalf online. Do you remember when that J-Chul thread happened? Someone was like, I think I know what's happening. There's a new podcast on the block. And they
thought we
J-Chul.
Corrupted the thread.
Yeah. They thought we went out of our way. And little do they know, we only have 5 people listening to us. So it couldn't have been us. Our Animorphs, sure up your numbers. If you're if you need more good people, we can find more good people. We're here to fight the good fight.
Yeah, some might say know your audience, but we're actually going on a journey this entire podcast of learning who our audience is. This is our
That's right.
Yeah.
And when we finally arrive at it and can spread it to the people who want it most, we'll disappear.
Right. Mm-hmm. No, we're going to take you beautiful bird people
100
with us.
years will pass.
Oh, you mean
I'm making
dead?
I'm trying to make like an Avatar The Last Airbender. It's like everything changed when our Animorphs attack. It's like there was a new Animorphs podcast, but when the world needed them most, they vanished.
My first
we're not
thought
going to vanish though.
Was just that hanging dong and this question of whether Axe had exposed genitalia, I just didn't think it was sexual right away.
I will say to you that I agree that I don't think all existence of genitalia needs to be sexual and needs to be sexualized. And there is such a thing as non-sexual nudity, as Axe can attest to, even if wherever his genitals are.
Yeah.
But in our society, we wear clothes.
Sorry, I'm not trying to do the peace sign. Sorry, I did the peace sign and balloons
we wear clothes, so it makes us a little uncomfortable.
But that's what I'm saying, is when you have a phrase such as hanging dong.
Yeah, that implies
and you're using it wittingly in a comic. Yes, it implies an attitude. And in a society where it is taboo for random nakedness, it's not that I agree that random nakedness is inherently sexual. That is, that's what our Christian upbringings would want us to believe. But it is not true. And I'm not saying that. But when you say hanging dong, you're talking about the taboo of it. You're reflecting on the taboo of it. And the taboo
I could
of it
agree
is
with that, I guess.
Adam and Eve have decency sort of expectations. So,
as soon as they eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and then they just start rubbing leaves all over their dong. It's really weird, actually.
It's really fucking weird. And I don't know why those pervs had us read the Bible. But the point is, all I'm saying
groomers.
is...
You might want to cut that.
No, I mean, the Catholic Church is at its run with lots of...
Yeah.
They had lots of time to fix that one for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess what I'm saying is in the science of the non-real science of joke construction, tell me that the nudity isn't the joke there and that the impropriety of it isn't the joke there. Whereas our butthole question was also playing off of impropriety in that it's an anatomical question asked stupidly, but it's not playing off of an impropriety that implies anyone's uncouthness.
Right. It's a xenobiological question phrased in a silly way that's not inherently No, I guess it is a xenobiological question phrased in a way that makes it seem dirtier than it is. But there's...
Or stupider. Or specifically because it's scatological humor.
Yeah.
It's not like we're talking about how does this guy poop? And that's what I wanted to know. So what I'm saying is we're dumber than this person who posted to Reddit. And frankly, I'm proud to be dumber in this case.
Well, this has been a productive conversation. I think we're good for the night. I think we can sign.
So, Eddie, when should we schedule our next session? What did you want to say, Ed?
No. It's good. It's good. We can move on to Rachel turning into a Hork-Bajir.
Well,
I think. Hold on. We gotta
set the scene a little more than that.
I'm just saying that's the main thing that happens in this next chapter.
You can buy me dinner.
As you may remember, we left off with Cassie saying, "We have company," as Tobias is introducing his friends to Jarrah Hamid, the captured Hork-Bajir, Yerkless Hork-Bajir. Free Hork-Bajir. And Cassie's like, yo, we got company. And Jeremy has been saying, like, oh, we got to save my wife, right? Like, my Kalashi, she's like my everything, my bae five ever, like all that jazz. He would never leave her. And so we're trying to figure out a plan. And in the middle of trying to figure out a plan, I believe, we just realized we have company. And look who's coming to dinner. That's exactly, it's Sidney Poitier.
It's Hork-Bajir. Oh, wait, it's who is it?
No, never mind.
But the point is, we read this a week ago.
Yeah, about a week ago.
We were like, you know what? The kids will be safe here. We're going to leave him here.
We're
going to leave him here in the woods. In the cave. And the kids freaking out right now. And by the kids, I mean our children, which we bore. Marco,
Mama who bore me.
Cassie, Jake, Rachel, Tobias, Axe.
Just like that mother skunk in book 9.
It is weird that Axe and Tobias are uncle and nephew, given that we gave birth to all of them. But it's, we don't question it.
It was a long labor, and I'm proud of us.
And none of them are dating. I don't know why anyone thought that the children were
we didn't know that. We didn't
when
know
we gave birth to them.
I thought, when we were giving birth to them and I thought they weren't related somehow, I thought, their dynamic was kind of cute. And I was just saying.
All right, we need a forklift
10.
to get out of this bit. We've dug ourselves a little too deep.
Can you use a forklift to dig?
No, you can't use a forklift
but
to
it's
dig.
the only tool
but
we
you
have.
Can lift it up. You can lift it up.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, a simple yes and could have gotten us to chapter 10. The enemy is closing in, so Tobias suggests that someone morph into Jarrah Hamid. Sorry, I can get that better.
It sounds like Jeremy.
It's supposed to sound like Jeremy.
It's so hard to not say
Jeremy.
Jarrah Hamid to draw the controller's attention from the Hork-Bajir's true location. Cassie first, and then the gang make a point of receiving Jeremy's consent, given that he is sentient. Tobias immediately regrets his suggestion when Rachel volunteers for the morph. It's the story of his life, he says. His friends are going into danger, while he stays safe hearing echoes. Rachel absorbs Jarrah. Hamid. She morphs into a Hork-Bajir.
Yeah, that's a succinct summary there. We get some real cute lines about Marco feeling like he needs to go home for dinner and they're all going to get in trouble. And then I just like the way that it's mostly Tobias, but also Marco are referring to Jarrah Hamid because when they realize how many people they've sent out to try to recapture him, Tobias's response is, they want our boy here real badly. and Marco calls him old Jarrah Hamid. Yeah, they're really
wasn't it Marco who said Mr. Visser or Mr. 3? Was it Mr. 3?
Mr. Visser.
I forget. I can't look it up, unfortunately, because Anidata is bullshit. So.
Don't say that.
Hot take from the creator of Anidata.
Hot take from the creator of Anidata. This search sucks.
How old do we think that Jarrah Hamid is? I know, we don't have but you think young adult for a Hork-Bajir?
We've been so historically bad at this in the past. We thought Chapman was 30 in the end of we were like,
I thought 23. I thought college athlete.
We thought Loren was already in college.
Yeah.
We were, and then
I'll say they seem like adults, right? Because there's an expectation placed on them at some point of breeding.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems like it's not like, oh, we'll have to wait. And they're married.
Yeah.
They're married. So they're at least adults.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Hork-Bajir society, we don't know, but
yeah, we don't know, man.
Yeah.
They could marry you only when you're like 90.
Something interesting about this one is that we've seen, especially with Cassie, consent come up as an important thing to her with morphing. And it's a big conversation they have here. Like they need to receive the hork. And everyone immediately agrees with this, it seems. Like that they need to receive the hork.
Which they did not immediately agree on dolphins. They were like, we've moved forward. I'm liking the motion, though. We see that they've sort of changed, although they didn't know dolphins were what dolphins were before they morphed them. So like, but Hork-Bajir clearly can talk and have wives and like things like that. But it's interesting to see them revisit this after so much, you know?
It's something really changed when Cassie dropped that whale. I think like there is sort of this acceptance of non-human sentience that I actually really enjoy, because humans now struggle with that one. Although dog owners seem to have a sense of it. Like dog owners are like, no, my guy's good.
Yeah,
he
they're
knows
people.
Exactly what he's doing. Yeah, they're people.
Look at them.
Yeah.
They think they're people.
Mm-hmm. They do. They think and they know.
Also, we get our first Hork-Bajir morph. I mean, we don't really hear about Rachel's review, which I think someone should be reviewing the morphs, I think. One of the...
they should be ranking them. They definitely should. They should have a tier list at this point.
The description to this one left me lacking.
Yes!
I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, like it wasn't... and maybe that's because maybe it's intentional that it was lacking, because like this book is doing a lot to humanize the aliens for us. So if we spend a lot of time sort of having this dehumanizing, more of humanizing is a bad word. What do I mean? Like making relatable the Hork-Bajir.
Yeah. They basically just say she got taller, she started to look like a lizard, and then some blades exploded out from her.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it actually sounds more badass than almost any morph we've had so far.
We do get a really good line that she was quickly heading toward Shaq's size, which I think is definitely worth
It was the style of the
pointing
time.
out.
I mean, people may remember the Aaron Carter hit, That's How I Beat Shaq, which was years away at this point, but K.A. saw it coming.
The only thing else I want to hit here, I think, is Tobias, how he feels about Rachel morphing into a Hork-Bajir.
Yeah, this is critical. It's very, very, very well done. I feel like this book, and I think Eddie and Miranda and Eddie and Miranda are going to spend a lot of time talking about how good this book was and is. But this is the sneakiest Chekhov's like dilemma statement, because it was really like we were seeing the picture in the magazine and the first thing and blah blah blah, and then I guess it's not that sneaky, but all because I couldn't morph.
All because I couldn't morph, yeah.
But because he couldn't morph, Rachel is going to morph this Hork-Bajir and try and run away and run a distraction so that they can save Jerahami's life, all the while putting Rachel's life in danger because Tobias made this mistake and he can't adequately participate as a team member. I think the thing that I really love about it is like when you do all the work, it's so obvious that it just seems genuine.
Yeah.
Like it's just like very flawlessly. That's exactly how he would feel in that moment. It's been being set up for books now.
I feel like that's another thread that feels like a Cassie thread to me that goes back to the old, my inaction caused harm to Marco.
Megamorphs?
Yeah, in Megamorphs. And this is sort of a twist on that where it's like my action and then inability to perform my own idea led to somebody else having to take the risk instead of me. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's a similar feeling. And so like to have those two Cassie ideas really close together in this chapter and just to check in on where everybody is on those feelings several books later, like I feel like we're getting some snapshots, you know what I mean? You could take these moments and line them up and see the character arc and how they're growing and changing and how they're feeling.
Look at this graph! Anyway, I agree 100%. And yeah, I had two like little nitpicky notes, which is like, it was Tobias who had the idea, I think, to morph Jerahami and to run away as him. And he goes through this thing. It made me sick. It made me sick to think about it. It had been my idea, my brilliant idea, and she would take the risk talking about Rachel. And I'm like, they should have put brilliance in italics or something.
Yeah,
Like,
just to make it clear that he's like, oh, it's my brilliant idea. But it feels a little too earnest. Like
another. It's like, do you actually think this whole idea? Because it's like, it's a crazy idea.
My super legit fucking idea.
I think he was kind of beating. Yeah, I heard it as him beating himself up about it. Not
yeah,
yeah.
He is.
I need things to be louder and more mellow. There's a reason I like opera. I don't read subtlety.
Maybe an emoji making an eye roll face would have been good for you, Chris.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Would it kill her to have invented emojis?
He's a bit of a sass master in this book, though. He's very sarcastic, Tobias, in this book. We get a lot of that from him. So, like, it feels in character.
Yeah, I agree.
No, it's 100% in character, and I just, maybe started doing my notes too early.
Because we're gonna get a very sarcastic yee-haw from him in like a
which
few
you're right.
pages.
He actually makes a whole but it's not sarcastic. I thought he was secretly into it. Oh my God, that's why it's sarcastic. It's fucking it's meta irony. It's like, it's so sarcastic that he wraps back around to being genuine because he's like, yeah, I wasn't into that. It's fine. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Yeah.
I don't remember the yeehaw.
Oh, I do.
Oh, well,
I do.
We're almost there. It's coming up. So we move on to chapter 11. Our plan is to have Jerahami hide in the cave. He's just going to stay where he is and have Rachel run off as Jerahami and lead the Yeerks away from him. That's our plan.
Miranda, you want to read this chapter 11, John?
So, chapter 11. Rachel and Jerahami briefly lock blades in a dominance ritual before Rachel adjusts to the Hork-Bajir mind. The controllers arrive at the cave, and the Animorphs manage to take them by surprise, pursuing their enemies into the woods. Tobias rides along on Rachel's shoulder. Cassie, an owl morph, reports from above that the controllers are leading the gang into a trap. Rachel tries to turn around and flee, but trips in the process, sending Tobias tumbling into a bush. When he attempts to hop back onto Rachel, giggity, he suddenly, inexplicably, finds himself high above the forest. Yes?
Miranda, we both agreed you weren't going to read the giggity that Eddie wrote.
He recognizes where he is now. Far from Rachel in another hawk's territory. Below him, in a meadow, not as nice as his meadow, he sees a Hork-Bajir surrounded by controllers. Tobias is disoriented. How did he end up here? It's not Rachel that he sees, not Jerahami. Before Tobias can identify the Hork-Bajir, one of the human controllers begins morphing, revealing his true form. Visser 3.
That's right, it's Mr. 3 in the flesh.
I actually really love the little dominance ritual because, like, they say it's a dominance ritual, but I don't even know if I fully believe it. It almost feels like more like just how males greet each other. It's just like dap me up, you know what I mean? Like, it's just they gotta do the thing.
I only found it frustrating in that, like, it heightened the tension, which is exactly what it was there to do. I was just like, come on, guys. I was like totally on team, like, whoever else being like, yo, get it together, we gotta go.
Right, because they told us we only have 2 minutes, and apparently Rachel's a fast morpher now, because it used to take several minutes to morph.
Really slow. So it's really dangerous for them to add content.
The danger of high stakes and dyslexia needs to be studied.
Oh my God.
I also feel like this dominance ritual is an interesting touch that I feel like in many books we don't get, because it's telling us something about, like, they could have just morphed and then she left, and I feel like in lots of other books that's how the action would play, but it's kind of just like a little cult, like it teaches us something about the Hork-Bajir culturally, and I don't feel like we get a lot of those moments.
I think that's why we get it here. I do agree that I think it's like for that cultural insight, but we did used to get these moments early on when they had less ability to control the brain. And so I thought there may also be a statement going like, hey, morphing a sentient creature is like more confusing, like their brain has more strength than like a tomcat. But we also saw Rachel lose out to the tomcat instincts, which is starting to make me think that Rachel just loses out to dominance instincts every time. Like, I think her inherent will to dominate maybe being tapped into every time she does one of these morphs. And like anytime an instinct tells her to be dominant, she seems to go for it. Is just my take on it. It's like, I don't know that that's why it happened. And it's definitely not why it happened narratively, but like, it's an interesting thing to point out that she frequently morphs male things, and anytime that dominance plays a role, Rachel is front and center.
Yeah, that's a good point. I admire that they didn't feel the need. So if it is, like you're saying, Miranda, that they didn't feel a need to have Axe come in and say, she's having trouble because this is new for you, but if you morph a sentient creature, you might like that. They didn't feel the need to make the subtext text. You know?
They let the reader do the work. Like, they just gave you what you needed.
Moment. Yeah. I think an unusually subtle moment for these books. So, yeah, I agree. I also like that. And I like Tobias, right? I mean, he'll do this. He does this a few times this book, but I like him riding along on Rachel's shoulder. I like the Tobias Rachel dynamic in this book.
Me too.
Generally. Yeah, me too. I think I agree 100%.
We get a cute little moment about Marco pointing out that Rachel's always gung-ho to go into danger.
Yeah.
And he says, he's like, and so Jake is reminding everyone that we're not trying to have a fight. We're not trying to, like, start a battle here. We're just trying to get these guys away from Jarhami and then escape. She's like, right, you know, and she's just, like, taking a few, like, she's, like, shadow boxing with her Hork-Bajir blades.
Yeah.
And then Marco says, I'll bet you $10. She says, let's do it. And Rachel's like, let's go for it.
Get up and go. Yeah. It's such a good bit.
Marco complains that she cheated.
No, that's Marco's fault.
Yeah.
If you don't want to telegraph your punches, don't telegraph your punches.
You know, and we will have some specific communication issues again a little later. We thought we were getting some really good communication in this book, and we did. Communication leveled up, but we need to be specific, friends.
There's that. I also had a caveat on that.
Oh, yeah?
On that.
Well, we'll get to that.
Just that nonviolent communication, like, there's still lots to be learned there.
Oh, yes. But no, I just mean that they've moved forward from
You're right.
where they
I'm
were.
being pedantic. So full disclosure, audience, I am extra pedantic today, and I wish I weren't.
What were you going to say about Marco, Miranda?
I was going to say we've been like leading up to it, and in a lot of our notes coming up, we continue to talk about that. Just like Marco is not feeling super realized in this book. He's not feeling. He's feeling like stock Marco. It's like we just took B-roll of Marco and cut him into the book.
It really feels that way, which is remarkable for a book, right? It's like you understand why that happens in a TV show where we couldn't get the actor back, but it does feel weird.
Is it Tobias's perspective?
It could be Tobias's perspective.
That is the question, right? Because if Tobias doesn't feel that close to Marco, then maybe his ability to read the depth into what Marco's saying, like, because he's the person narrativizing this. And it's always been a little unclear. I mean, we don't know for a fact what these accounts even are.
Yeah.
We don't know.
This is remembered by the author of each book, I guess. Mm-hmm. Like, you know what I mean? We're taking them as a truthful account, but like...
Which is interesting if you think about it, because it kind of freezes their relationship. It's like, oh, maybe Tobias and Marco never got that close.
Yeah, that's a good point. In theory, I was going to say the Andalite Chronicles, I think we can take with fewer grains of salt, just because it seems like whatever technology he used to record his dying thoughts, he like could sort of play his memories onto. Mm-hmm. But we still got them tinged with his perceptions. You know what I mean? So it's like...
It was still translated into English.
Right. And so... Yeah, we haven't really talked about that much as the books, the books as a whole exist, like what the changing narrator means for each book and how differently they may perceive each other's actions if we got the same book from someone else's perspective.
Yeah.
Well, they broke down the entire story of the Animorphs down into chapters, essentially, and then did like a roll call to see who would claim each chapter, and
it was actually they did a doodle poll.
Yeah, exactly.
And like, if you didn't respond fast enough, sometimes you just got the bad end of the stick. So Tobias was like, I really wanted to write one from before I turned into a hawk. And they're like, well, you didn't answer fast enough,
Yeah,
bud.
didn't answer fast enough.
For some reason,
It's
they
hard
made
to
Axe
write in
and
the form with the little pen when you're just using your
Yeah.
little
Your little
talons
hawk
to
feet,
hold it.
yeah.
Oh, and that's
Hawk
why
feet,
Axe and Tobias switch off, because Axe also has trouble with his hooves.
Well, Axe
so.
couldn't
Right.
get to if it was on the internet too. I mean, Axe can only be in morph for
Axe
2
has
hours.
hands.
Yeah, I
Axe
forgot.
does have hands, actually.
Axe has hands, my God.
But I was
Yeah.
going, he has to get to a library computer or go over to Marco's house, you know what I mean? To be
Right,
able to answer
right.
the doodle poll. It's not, they don't have a library in the woods, you know?
It's true.
Would Andalites be cuter if they didn't have hands?
No.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, if they were
Eddie's
just a
right.
torso with
No.
no arms, that's horrifying.
Because they would
No,
try to
Eddie's
do
right,
things
though.
with their hooves.
They were, yeah, dude. Also,
Are you
all
saying
the
they have
extra
arms
nuzzling.
but with hooves? Like, what? Do they have arms?
No arms.
No,
But all
then
the-
no, it's
all the-
horrifying. A human torso
all
with
the
no
extra
arms. is awful.
nuzzling, though, all their like affectionate gestures would be like, "Aw."
Done with
Kind
their
of like
head.
when the
That's
cats
how
try
I
to paw
behave
things,
anyway.
like-
That's how I
Yes.
show affection anyway. We don't need to get rid of our arms to nuzzle
Yeah,
people.
but you don't have hooves, dude. It's not the same.
If I were ghostwriting an Animorphs book, I would have a book where Visser 3 admits that one reason he
Mr.
wants to
3.
control Andalites, he wants to win this war, is so that he can just remove the arms from Andalites.
so that they'd be cuter.
Yeah.
That's like a
It's
horrific,
Envision.
like body
I
mod
do know-
dystopia. Can you think about that? Do you want to think about that?
No, but
We're
he
already
wanted
thinking about it,
to be
girl. It's
cuter
already
without
happening.
the
He's
arms.
gonna put a law into place. He's gonna have every Andalite come in and have their arms amputated. Did you play Dramatical
I do-
Murder? That's a
I
bad
do-
ending in Dramatical Murder.
I do want to say we're gonna get so much shit for Anidorks now think Andalites don't have arms. Like we're gonna get
just Eddie.
We're
I'll
gonna
take
get
it.
that. Just
No, Eddie
we
knows
stand
they have
as
arms.
one.
He
We
wishes
stand
they
as one.
didn't.
I don't wish. I
That's
think
better.
we all wish they did. I'm just saying.
You're
the
wrong.
quiet
You're
part
putting
loud,
so many
so-
words. Like my mouth is
No, no,
just
no, no,
full
no,
of
no.
your words, Eddie.
No, I think actually for once I'm gonna agree with Eddie. Society is wrong, and Eddie knows what we need.
Yes. That's why Axe cuts the hands off. He also
Think
knows.
of-
Yes,
Think of the
he's
shoulders,
correct.
though.
He's
Think of-
overcorrecting.
think of
He
the
thinks the
shape,
lady
like-
doth protest too much. Hold on, I do have something I
Okay,
do
go
want
for
to
it,
cut
go
in
for
with
it.
that I've been trying to cut in with. Let me do it more naturally. So one thing I'm actually kind of excited to touch upon here is we get a really good account of a sentient morph for a creature we know that speaks. Dolphins, we morphed dolphins back in book 4. We're like, yes, they're sentient, but we get something firsthand here.
Secondhand.
You're right. But we now know that Rachel, who morphed the Hork-Bajir, has no thoughts or memories specifically that came from Jerahami. Like, they assert very heavily that the dominance ritual seems to be instinctual.
Yes.
That something very natural happened there, and that it is baked into the Hork-Bajir being in a way that memories and thoughts are not. And
Right. It's
I
not.
guess,
It's not
like,
so much a learned behavior as like a
Yes.
true instinct.
Thank you. That's what I'm going for. And I think the other thing that excites me about that is sort of this like less invasiveness that the Andalite technology seems to exert over the controlled or borrowed being. Like the Yerks are controllers. They're controlling the thing. They're taking the memories. They're
Yeah.
storming in.
And they don't
there's
even
the
make a copy.
violation.
They take the real whole version and they push you into a small corner of your mind and they take all
Exactly.
your information and like
The violating thing. There's so much more. There's so many more levels of violation happening.
yeah, for sure.
Yes. And I think it's actually like not only are they concerned with the consent of Jerahami, but we also find out that the act itself is somewhat less, which is less invasive, and which is very interesting now having remembered Cassie morphed Rachel. So we don't have this like, God in the machine, tabula rasa sort of like Cassie knows all of Rachel's thoughts from before book 12.
And I
like
think
we
they,
now
I think
know
they
that that's
sort
canon.
of told us that in that.
Did they? I
Well,
apologize.
No,
I forgot.
They didn't explicitly with the Cassie Rachel morph, but they did say with the other animals that they morphed that they didn't get like a full life story of the animal. You know what I mean?
But correct me if I'm wrong. And I guess we've done some intelligent morphs in the Andalite Chronicles with Taxons and Geds. We maybe did. No, we did Taxons.
We did Taxons.
So I guess you're right with that. Like, that's our exposure to our first, like, language speaking creature. But I guess in the main series books, this feels like the first lingual,
yes, except for the Rachel morph. That is correct.
Right.
Yes, that's true.
Right.
But I'm just saying that it's in keeping with what they had already established. It's not like it's like we could have.
Yes,
guessed
exactly.
That might be true.
Yeah, exactly.
But like, this is
nice to have
stating
the
it.
confirmation. Yes,
I also,
exactly. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, this leads me to a question of epigenetics, right? So there's this burgeoning field of epigenetics. It's not that burgeoning. We've been talking about it for a while.
Pretty old.
But like, what is instinct versus memory? You know what I mean? And like, what can your body remember that you don't necessarily remember in your brain? And like, I mentioned something. I'm like, if only we could do a study on morphing animals whose parents lived through a famine and see, like, you know what I mean? See if those instincts, like.
I know what you mean. But, the biology and the biological implications of it. Like, you want to like go see a Robert Sapolsky lecture on how
morphing.
Andalites
Yes, I
work
want to know.
Yeah.
I want to know like what information is in the DNA, which is still a question that we haven't fully answered in our world. Like, what information is in the DNA? What information is in the genes? But that just makes it even more interesting, like, that these rituals are in it, which you would have to think it can't actually be complete instinct to respond correctly, right? That has to be like a baked in.
Because the thing that it reminded me of is like when moose lock. Is that moose that lock antlers, right? And they kind of fight like that?
Yeah, I think deer sometimes do it too.
That's how meese get married.
Yeah. Which I guess, to that point, it's not so much, if it's similar, it's not so much cultural as it is like something, which is how I was taking it as like something.
Those are also usually actually violent, so it's nice that this one wasn't violent and was actually just some sort of like greeting ritual. It seems like they established, because they say dominance, but then they don't ask Rachel, so who won?
Yes,
like, you know what I mean?
So
they're not like, who's in charge?
Like, reading it, interpreting it rather than actually what the thing itself was. I had a question about going back to when Cassie, this not really relevant, but I don't think we talked about it at the time and I didn't think of it. When Cassie morphed Rachel, whose clothes was Cassie wearing in her Rachel copy? Because she wasn't wearing Cassie's clothes.
We didn't consider that at all. But Cassie, she was at a TV studio.
It's exactly what I was thinking, yeah. But it happened quickly, right? Like,
it did.
Yeah.
But you know what?
Does a Rachel morph come with clothes? Like
maybe it was
a quick change is the hinge of the industry.
It's when Cassie morphs Rachel. Is the Rachel wearing clothes?
Well, no, let's think about this. Let's think about this real quick. The reason they take their clothes off to morph is because they rip their clothes when they morph. So if you were morphing from one human girl to another human girl, your clothes might get a little tight because she's taller or whatever, but the clothes might be fine. She might have been able to do the morphing clothes, no problem.
100%. Yeah,
but Rachel's much taller than Cassie.
She is much taller. So yeah, she's wearing a crop top now, but it's the 90s. Deal with it.
But maybe Cassie wears baggy clothes. It was the
That's
does
true,
wear
she
baggy
did.
clothes.
We actually have had that confirmed that Cassie wears baggy
maybe her clothes just fit normal.
Maybe
like when Homer Simpson was wearing Krusty the Clown's clown pants. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
She's like, I need to wear clothes that will expand if I ever become Rachel. Like
a bigger human, yeah.
If I ever become a bigger human. Let's just underline quickly here before moving on to chapter 12. Tobias he has a weird moment where he gets transported from where he is on Rachel's shoulder to...
Oh, that's so right. It's the weird Elemist you done fucked up moment. Where
I need you to be here.
Yeah.
It reminds me a little bit of in Roller Coaster Tycoon when you could select the tweezers and you could just pick the people up, move them. It's like, you want to ride this ride. Like, every time you changed your mind about what ride you wanted to ride, that was the Elemist working through you.
Roller coasters and Ferris wheels. You like how it feels. All right, let's go on.
Right, Amy, man.
So now we're on chapter 12. Yeah, so we're looking over this meadow that isn't Tobias's. It's not as nice as Tobias's.
Not as nice.
Meadow. So Visser 3 talks the Hork-Bajir's ear off and in the process reveals her name. Ket Halpek, Jerahmee's Kalashi, or wife. To buy her time to escape, Tobias flies high into the sky and then plummets towards Visser 3, giving us not one, but 2 seers. He is confident that the Swainson hawk that lives in this area will come to defend its territory from him. It works! The hawk enters the scene, distracting Visser 3. In that moment, Tobias rakes the Visser's eyes. Tobias escapes with Ket Halpek. So everything here happens in this short chapter. Everything happens very quickly, and I had to read it multiple times in order to put together this description, and I'm not even...
Description,
very good.
Your description was excellent, and it actually took the information I was confused about all chapter and just put it right at the top, which I greatly appreciate.
I would say this is an interpretation, though, because it felt like, I don't know, it just felt like the chess pieces were getting moved around, the plot pieces were getting moved around really quick.
I don't know. I was not that confused by this chapter. The only thing I was confused by in this chapter...
Try being 33, Miranda.
The only thing I was really confused by in this chapter, because he uses Tobias uses an inference to learn that this must be Jerahmee's Kalashi, which just sounds like Kalachi's, which I think is a taco place in the South, and I just like...
Sounds like Tamagotchi.
Well, maybe K.A. wrote this book while she was visiting that taco place.
But, so he puts it together, and there's 2 humans with shotguns, and another human that becomes an Andalite and is clearly Visser 3. He monologues a little bit, but
classic Visser.
He just like, Tobias is like, okay, so we gotta activate the other hawk. And the only thing that really confused me is that Visser 3 immediately wants to attack the Swainson hawk.
Yes.
But
Not
doesn't
Tobias.
seem to have noticed Tobias, who just screeched twice at the top of his lungs while plummeting toward his face.
But she makes a point, or Tobias makes a point of telling us how high he flies. I think he mentions I flew higher and higher or something like that.
Yeah, he's like, I was way up high.
Is that he went so high that when he began plummeting and he seared, the Swainson hawk
somehow beyond
heard the seer, but Visser 3 did not.
Or maybe Visser 3 thought it was the other hawk. When the first first hawk he saw, so like Tobias arranged to be far enough away that the Swainson hawk would be the first one he saw. Yes. I feel like is what he did. But if Visser 3 had simply looked up, I feel like we would have been screwed.
Yes, and I think that's the thing is that Tobias presents this, like you said the word, he activated the Swainson hawk, and that is how he approaches it. As if he was confident if I just do this thing, this other thing will happen. But actually, he was taking a huge gamble here. And 9 times out of 10, he gets shot out of the sky. Yeah.
He admits that if the Swainson hawk isn't here, I'm done for because I'm already in my dive and I'm just going to get shot. He yells to Ket Halpek, I'm a friend of Jerahmee, and be ready to run when I get there. And then they run, and they're fine. It's fine. He yells, Andalite filth, as he
it really
runs
is like,
off.
At my place of work, if there was a red-tailed hawk that was continually landing on my boss, you better believe, like, we would have umbrellas. Like, it's just like one umbrella is all it takes to thwart this little
Why
asshole.
does he go anywhere without a helmet? Like, it can be clear. He can see through it. Like,
so we know
ridiculous.
We know Visser 3 can heal through morphing because he's in an Andalite form. Does Tobias eat his eye? Did he get an eyeball, you think?
Because he's still hungry a couple chapters later.
That's true. Yep.
Also, I don't know that healing, do you heal? Oh my God, I'm going to be so upset if I completely forgot this, but can you heal by morphing and unmorphing? Did we do that?
And it happens this book.
It happened this book. It might be the first time we see one of them heal their quote unquote base morph, like their true form. with it, but it happens this book for sure.
I just misremembered that Marco had one of his human legs bit off, so he morphed into a dolphin and then morphed back. But that's not what happened.
No. He had
that's what I knew
brutal.
About. That's what I was remembering. Yeah.
No, which raises like the really disturbing question of like, are they being reset to the age they were the first time they morphed every time they morph back? Like, are they not aging?
No way. There's no way.
Well, that would explain why they're 13 for so long.
There's no way. There's no way. That can't happen. That can't be. That would be so problematic.
And yet it also doesn't make sense that aging would continue to happen while they were morphed, right?
But then also
right.
The other question is any body modifications, like any ear piercings,
tattoos,
things like that. Like obviously they're 13, they don't have tattoos.
Wait,
but
can we make a note of this?
saxophone?
Because this is the exact kind of respectable question that I think our
discourse
Animorphs
that could
would
happen
find.
on our
I hate to break this to you, Bud, but I've definitely seen do they come back uncircumcised thread at least.
Which is not respectable. Not respectable.
Well,
we
no,
don't discuss the dong. So
we can avoid the dong.
Can you avoid the dong though? It's the patriarchy.
That's true. I've been trying
that's a
to
good
avoid the
question for
dong
our
my whole
Animorphs.
life.
The
Dear
dong
our
swings
Animorphs,
one way and
how
it
can I
swings
avoid
the
the dong?
How to dodge the dog.
We cannot pass through this chapter without admiring Visser 3. He is consistently himself. He probably could have captured this Hork-Bajir if he just showed up.
He'd only shut the fuck up.
But instead we get, well, cut out back. And you know he's drawing this out, too. That is your name.
He's like trying a new accent.
Oh, yeah.
He like has a new...
He has a
I don't
southern
think it's
accent.
Would it be
thing.
scarier if I did that? He'd be like, oi, well,
Oi, bruv. Oi, bruv.
Oi, bruv. I'm gonna bleed me lizards.
Okay, chapter 13?
Yeah, so...
One quick thing. How would y'all have felt if Elemist Intervention had like a cool graphic or something? like if they just said something every time that was like, and then I saw blue or something like that. I just feel like
Or
that would
if
be
every
helpful.
time it happened, they heard chicka, 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 pa, pa, like the dog sound effect.
Yeah, the dog sound effect, exactly. Like
what does that sound?
What's that sound?
I feel like it's obvious enough without it. But they haven't
cool
said, they haven't revealed that it's the Elemist yet, but like...
It's obvious-ish. It is disorienting when you're speed reading through it. I think the book's trust of Tobias's faculties, we're taking it on faith. Like, hey, we all get disoriented. I was just watching a YouTube video with one of my favorite jazz musicians, and he showed a clip where he lost the beat in a jam. I'm just saying, like, a jazz musician and a hawk are pretty similar.
This time he knows for sure, though, that he's been fucked with. He's like, there is no ifs, ands, or buts. This is, I've been put somewhere I was not and could not.
His
have
growing
gotten
agitation with it and how he responds to it is also a great thing about this.
It is.
book.
It's a great thing that they follow through here. And like,
I'm not saying it needs to be in the text, but if some 5-year-old could have put stickers in the book that I have that show me when, like, if I'm looking through this,
Just
book
like the
and I'm flipping
emojis,
through,
he'd
there's
like-
there's a little graphic in the corner where Tobias is morphing into a human, and all I'm saying is would it have killed him to put a little picture of an Elemist every so often?
And you know, the Elemist
yes,
could have a
it's not-
sound effect or a graphic. We're led to believe he is
not
that
needed,
powerful.
But if there was a little scratch and sniff Elemist sticker that smelled like farts to let me know that he's
Why would it smell like
he's
farts?
interrupting my book.
I don't like
because he's
it makes me
stinking
think
up
of
the place
buggers,
with his
Bernie
highfalutin.
bots or whatever it's called, beanie bots. What were they called?
You're talking about Bernie
Birdie
Sanders
Bots, every flavored
beans?
beans?
Yes.
Bernie Sanders ever flavored beans?
We are not a pro Harry Potter podcast.
No. Sorry. Okay, let's move on to chapter 13. Chris, do you want to take this one?
Thanks for listening to Anidorks. We'll be back soon with lots more to say. Until the Andalites return, or at least until next time. See you soon!